Recovery Ecosystem Podcast is an initiative of Detroit Recovery Project, Incorporated. Our mission is to support sustained recovery, health, and wellness.
Oh my God, it gives me an honor and a privilege to introduce none other. But let me just give you a little background about this young man. He's a father. He's a husband. He's a Detroit native. He's a person in long-term recovery. He has a doctoral degree in psychology. So he's also a clinical psychologist, and he's also founder, president, and chief executive officer of the Detroit Recovery Project, a phenomenal nonprofit organization doing some amazing work in the city of Detroit to work with people who have many challenges. And Detroit Recovery Project has been in existence for over 2 decades in the heart of Detroit. So he's a proud Detroiter. And so let me introduce Dr. Andre Johnson. Hey, thank you for that incredible introduction. So I'm so happy to be here today to continue this dialogue around the recovery ecosystem, which is a book that I had started writing in 2017, and it came into fruition finally in 2024. Today we're going to focus on one of the chapters. Today's focus is chapter 3, which is self-help support groups. And I want to take a moment to just read an excerpt from the book to just give a little background about why self-help support groups are instrumental. So I wrote in the very first chapter, according to the American Psychology Association, which is also known as APA, a self-help group is a group composed of individuals who meet regularly to help one another cope with a life problem. Let me just say that one more time. A self-help group is composed of individuals who meet regularly to help one another cope with a life problem. I'm going to say it one more time because they say the third time is a charm. A self-help group is a group composed of individuals who meet regularly to help one another cope with a life problem. Unlike therapy groups, self-help groups are not led by professionals, do not charge a service fee, do not place a limit on the number of members. And so let me just unpack that for a minute. So most people have heard of 12-step Narcotics Anonymous, 12-step Alcoholic Anonymous. And, you have Food Anonymous, you have Marijuana Anonymous, you have various secular Anonymous, relational recovery. So there's a lot of 12-step programs that have really the same kind of foundation. But the point in just making that a chapter in itself is I wanted to reinforce a point. And that point is, whatever your challenge is, whatever your life problem is, there are some support groups that are out here that you can tap into, and you can bring whatever it is you need to bring, unpack whatever it is you need to unpack, and perhaps you can even have an opportunity to build a relationship with some people that have some of the same challenges and same problems you may have. And I think oftentimes people feel as though when they're faced with these dilemmas, these problems, these challenges, that they are facing these problems all by themselves. And we live in this society where we're so conditioned to not always become to be forthcoming about what's going on with us. And when we take that approach of not dealing with what's going on with us, it does impact our internal being, our internal spirit. And that's why when we talk about the recovery ecosystem, we're talking about two factors that influence and affect how we move in this universe. And one is your internal, and the other one is your external. Externally, in terms of your living environment, who's in your life that's helping to support you to grow and flourish, or internally, how you feeling about yourself overall? Are you confident? How's your self-esteem? Do you have the work ethics that you would like to have? Or is there some challenges and life problems that's holding you back from tapping into your greatness? And so we want to help people. We want to provide tools that can help people to make it to that next level, whatever that next level is. Only individuals know, because for me, it's all about meeting people where they are, and also continuously providing the tools and the information so that people can get the help they need to move forward. You know, I've heard many, many stories of people who've, for example, had a significant gambling addiction and lost their retirement savings at the casino, and how they banned themselves from the casino and still returned to the casino, and, you know, lost their marriage, destroyed relationships, professional relationships that they may have had for numerous years, which, you know, resulted in borrowing money to pay bills, and then take that money and go gamble it off. And so there are 12-step Gambling Anonymous meetings out here in our community. You know, we have food. You know, food is can be a mind, moon, altering chemical to a certain degree. And so there are 12-step programs for what the group is called Food Addicts in Recovery and Anonymous. Alcohol, we have a lot of people struggling with alcoholism. And again, these vices that I talked about, sex, they are all vices that people, it's their approach to coping with whatever it is they're dealing with in life. So, you know, trying to fill some type of void, so to speak. So, you're not coping. So sex is a coping strategy. Drug use is a coping strategy. Alcohol use is a coping strategy. Shopping is a coping strategy. So we have, once we break the cycle of practicing those vices, oftentimes people need some type of support, ongoing support, to tap into, to help a person to maintain and sustain long-term recovery from whatever it is. And I believe everybody is recovering from something, but you have to be honest about what it is that you may be recovering from, or what it is that you may need to recovery from. But I do want to take a moment and just read another segment as it relates to the self-help support groups and the ecosystem protective factors. Self-help groups are a protective factor because they help people develop recovery-friendly relationships by providing a place for individuals to interact with others who share similar problems and are at different stages of addressing these problems. What makes the latter so valuable is that it allows people who are in early recovery to find others in early recovery who are experiencing the same type of feelings and life challenges. I mean, nothing like having a load lifted when your mind has been telling you you're the only person going through this experience right now. And sometimes when we have these challenging experiences, it brings about some guilt. It brings about some embarrassment, which is big. It brings about some shame, which is also big. And to be able to sit down with another individual that shares the same exact background, oh, what a relief it can be. It can really help people to begin that path, that journey of healing and dealing and getting better. And I think that's something vital is, that's the breaking point that often happens in the self-help groups is, I'm not the only person doing this foolishness. Or not let's scratch the foolishness. Let's just say I'm not the only person having this challenge in life right now. But I am going to work to get better. And so for me, it's all about making sure that we continuously put information out here to encourage individuals that they can get better no matter where they are in their lives. We want to promote long-term recovery. We want to promote you can do it no matter how bad, no matter how painful things may feel at this point. You can get through this moment. And if you read this chapter and you really work to internalize what you're learning, you'll start finding some relief in the place of whatever it is that you're being challenged with. So yeah, we're back here and talking about chapter 3, the recovery ecosystem, and how important and why it's important to have a self-help group. I want to take a moment to read an excerpt from chapter 3. One of the paragraphs talks about protective factors, and the other one talks about risk factors. And that's a common theme throughout the book, is each chapter elaborates on what a protective factor looks like and what a risk factor looks like. And so again, as a result of working on a recovery ecosystem, it's a self-help book that can guide you on your own journey. It can guide you on your own path. If you're struggling in a relationship that's causing you more pain and grief versus happiness and love, you may need to find recovery in another kind of way. But let me just start reading. I'm going to read a vignette out of the chapter that falls under the protective factor. And this is, fictitious name. Sheila went to a 28-day inpatient drug treatment center. While in the treatment program, members of a well-known 12-step program came to the center once a week and conducted meetings. Sheila enjoyed hearing the speakers and having an opportunity to share and ask questions. And she began looking forward to the nights when the meetings were held. Before she was discharged, she informed one of the individuals who ran the support meetings that she was leaving and would like to attend the meetings on the outside. The support group volunteer gave her a meeting list and invited her to one that would be held the evening she was discharged from treatment. Sheila attended that meeting and acknowledged herself as a newer person. At the meeting, she was given a list of phone numbers, and she was also encouraged to call people. Sheila began regularly attending that meeting as well as other meetings in her area. She followed their suggestion. She brought their literature and began reading it regularly. Sheila obtained a sponsor. She obtained a home group, and she made 90 meetings in 90 days. After those 90 days, based on the suggestion by her sponsor, she became the coffee maker for her home group. She began doing work with her sponsor, going on recreational outings with other members of the 12-step program. She enjoyed the gatherings and was very relieved there were no drugs or alcohol around. Soon she became the chairperson for her home group for 3 months. By the second year, Sheila was now sponsoring other women and enjoying her recovery. She had built a net that works without even intentionally knowing that was what she was doing. Of people in recovery who provided support in every area of her life, Sheila made it to a year clean of sobriety. Her home group made her a cake to celebrate her clean time. So that's a vignette that falls under what's known as a protective factor. And when we talk about protective factors, we're talking about factors that are in your life to protect you from harm. We're talking about pro-social activities that individuals can engage in to help them maintain and sustain whatever it is that they may be coping with. Again, if it's sobriety, if it's recovery, if it's gambling, if it's cancer, if it's food, if it's sex, whatever the vice is, there's an opportunity to really find a support group. And that's a step to increase your protective factor, because the risk factor, the opposite of the protective factor is the risk factor. And the risk factor is, are you putting yourself in risk? I mean, at a greater risk to relapse or return to using, sexing, whatever it is. So the high risk is not going to support groups. The high risk is still being connected with your old friends that you used to do whatever it is y'all used to do. Or in some cases, there's environmental. And again, think about the ecosystem, because the ecosystem focus is internal and external. And so it can be both internal and external. You get the feeling or you get an urge, or you get a trigger, because some people in some environments also influence triggers in your life. And so for us, we want you to understand that the moments you have those triggers are the moments you got to rely on your support group. Because if you feed into the trigger, then you'll return the whole patterns of perhaps using and doing some things that you will later regret in life. And so we want to make sure we ultimately increase people's awareness so that they can become better individuals, ultimately better, but also be healthy. And be healthy. And again, being healthy and happy. You know, one of the spiritual principles that I identified in this particular chapter is the word hope. 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 We have to give hope. People have to be hopeful. To live and not to be hopeful about life, not to be hopeful about love, not to be hopeful about happiness, I think is a disservice. And we all can play a role in giving people hope. And I think that's one of the also, how would I say this? One of the biggest things about the support groups is that you go into a place with a lot of resistance, you go into a place with no desire to be with people that have the same experiences, but you can sit in that table and you can have a spiritual experience. And that spiritual experience would be getting up at the end and saying, even though I didn't want to be here, I heard what I needed to hear, and I now have some hope, and I'm going to be committed to doing this for myself. And I'm going to do it for my family. I'm going to do it for my friends, and I'm going to do it for everybody, because now I have hope. I'm sure we've all heard the old adage of there's light at the other end of the tunnel. But understand, everybody don't see that light at the other end of the tunnel. Some people, that light has been dimmed so many years. So many people are sad. So many people are hopeless, helpless. And those are, considered to be dark places to be. And so here, the recovery ecosystem, we want to help you, and we want to see you believe in you, and we want you to know that there is light at the other end of the tunnel, and that no matter how bad things may appear now, you do have an opportunity to bounce back. We believe that everyone has some inner resiliency. We believe that hope is possible for everyone, regardless of where you might be in life, but it also starts on the inside. It starts within your eternal self. Focus on your eternal self. Focus on hope, having hope, and believing that you too can get through this. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Chapter 3, Recovery Ecosystem.
The Recovery Ecosystem Podcast is produced by Detroit Recovery Project, Incorporated. If you or someone you know needs support for substance use or mental health, call 313-365-3100 or visit recoveryfordetroit.com. You are not alone.